Welcome to the Homeschool High School podcast, brought to you by Seven Sisters Homeschool.com and the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. I'm Vicki, and I am here today to talk about how to get teens interested in career exploration. So let's talk about that for a minute. Teens are not only getting their transcripts done in high school and meeting all the requirements for graduation, and they're not only being adolescents that need to develop all the adolescence skills and self-awareness and friendships and experiences that they need. And they're not only doing all that, but they're developing adulting skills, because one of these days, before you know it, they're going to be graduated and have to be able to mop a floor and sew a button and get a job and go to college or go to some kind of training. And so there's so many things going on in high school. It's really, really challenging to figure out how to help them also, on top of all of that, prepare for a career, like how to even know what to do and whether it's worth even thinking about. And so what we want to do is talk about helping them get interested in a career exploration of some kind, so that when they graduate, they've got a clue. And, I always tell teens, you're not going to know everything when you graduate. But if you at least have a direction, it's so much easier to change direction than to start up, like graduate and then the day after go like, oh my gosh, I've got to do something. And so, get a direction and then start moving, and then you will change it as it goes because new circumstances come along. But we at least need to have a direction. So, we want to get teens interested in that without giving them guilt trips or it's too stressed out. So here are some suggestions for that to help teens start exploring the ideas of what's going to happen after they graduate, and that it can be good and worthwhile and meaningful. So, all right, so here is the number one thing that you can do to help teens start exploring careers, and that is to allow as enriched an environment as you are able to. So, we are all real people living real lives. There's a lot of working moms these days homeschooling. There's a lot of moms with multiple kids. So you can't do everything all the time. But one of the things that you may be able to do is to help your family have some extra field trips, and to each month, plan out one or two short trips that you can do to some place you don't normally go. And, if it is a field trip to, like, if you're studying American history and you've got a local, historic site in the area, or if you're studying, like biology, to go to a local zoo or a natural history museum. And take the whole kids with you. Everybody gets the benefit. What you're not trying to do is turn your teen into a biologist or a history major, but what you're doing is getting them outside of the box. Because what happens when we do the same routine all the time? You get up in the morning and you do your schoolwork, or you go to co-op and then you come home and you do the things, over and over again, especially, since the pandemic, where there's more at home than there may have been normally. What happens is the brain just quits using the imagination, the forward thinking part of the brain. It just goes like, no, we're just plodding along in life and not thinking the creative ways that will help teens be able to visualize the future and to believe in themselves. So if you get out of the box and do something, go on just a walk around the walking track at the local state park. I mean, it just something out of the box. If you can do that a couple of times a month, that will help your teen with their brain development to keep a forward thinking, or to develop a forward thinking creative part of their brain. It just exercises it. So, just doing that is going to help them be ready to explore some on career stuff. Hey, and you can log it down as school hours, if nothing else, PE, because you walked around, but log it down somewhere school hours wise for that teen. And if you got youngers, then you log it for them and stick it in their portfolio. So it's a win all the way around. All right, the next thing you can do to get teens interested in career exploration is to watch movies about people with interesting careers. And in the show notes, we'll put some links to different movies that kind of illustrate that. So, doesn't mean your teens need to go into that career. It just means they're being exposed to all kinds of different ideas. Like just off the top of my head, thinking about the movie October Sky, which came out a few years ago, and it told the story about a young man out, in the coal mining town who becomes a rocket scientist. Or Hidden Figures, about the Black women who were young in the early days of NASA, and they're the ones that did all the math behind the first rocket science. So, just simple stories about people who are doing different jobs. And anything counts. It doesn't mean your teen needs to go into that. It's just exercising the creative part of their brain. Again, the win-win about that is you can also log, hey, we watched American History movie. I'm logging that down for American History hours so that they're getting some enrichment. And if you got youngers, you log that down, keep a movie list and put it in their portfolio. And it's, educational enrichment. So everybody benefits. All right. So just exposing them to movies where they're visualizing other people's jobs. Another way to get teens interested in career exploration is to do some volunteer work in different areas. So if you can, look around and see, at church, where are the teens able to do some volunteer? Can they be on the worship team? Can they teach Sunday school? Can they be on the audio visual team? Can they do cleanup, setup, tear down? Can they help with vacation Bible school? That doesn't mean they need to go into any of those fields, but what they're doing is creating a richness of experience. And any experiences helps the brain grow and become more able to think about different careers and about the future because they've got a bank of experiences to draw from. And the win-win on that is they get to log down service hours for their transcript as well they should. And so they are learning something by experience about different kinds of things going on in the world. But also they are enriching their transcript. And just personally, it's just good for body and soul to be volunteering. Like that's good character development. That's good for your physical and emotional health. So a win-win on any kind of volunteering. So I know teens in our local area, a lot of them will volunteer at the animal shelter, besides church stuff, volunteer at the food bank, volunteer at, different service organizations in the area for short-term projects or all-year projects. We have a local Urban Promise school, and the kids will volunteer there doing various things that are needed there. So there's all kinds of things that teens can do for that kind of thing. All right, another thing that teens can do, and this may take a little more work on your part, excuse me. So another thing that will take a little more work on your part, but it's well worth the effort, is if teens can have a chat with someone who is in different fields. So like, both parents, if you're both working parents, sit down and talk about your job and the things that you do if they don't know already. Relatives in different kinds of jobs say, hey, we want a 15-minute interview to just get a job description. And so anybody in different kinds of fields, ask for an interview. If they'll come over for dinner, and chat with the whole family, then the youngers get it too. But if not, drop by their office and just have, just a short chat. Be sure to thank them, bring some cookies, feed them supper, so make it beneficial. But what that's doing is not locking a kid into a career. They may not even be interested, but they're getting an idea about what careers are like, and what really is a job entailing. And so, interview accountants and teachers and scientists and farmers, or anything you can find. And what you will do then is you'll be building again that enrichment of experience, even if that's not what your teen needs to go into for a career. All right, another way to get teens interested in career exploration is actually to lock themselves down into a quick career exploration course. And there's a number of them available. And, like shameless plug, Seven Sisters Homeschool has a career exploration bundle that we do. And the teens, it's not a hard thing to do, but we examine, like, what are their life experiences, what are their career values, like, do they need to be rich, do they need to have a 9 to 5, do they, so what kind of lifestyle are they looking for and needing in a career, what are their interests, what are their gifts, what are their struggles. And so when they put everything together, kind of like a Venn diagram, there's some sweet spots that they can do, and helps kind of give them some direction and then some ways to explore that through Career One Stop, which is the U.S. Department of Labor's career list. And it's a honking big website with all kinds of like job descriptions and the amount of training and videos that are interviews with people. So it's Career One Stop. And it's free. Your tax dollars at work there on the internet. So to do a career exploration course of some kind is a good idea, even if teens aren't sure what they want to do. If they kind of have to do that, like mom says, we got to get this on the transcript. That can, once they get started, most of the time what I see teens experience is, oh, all of a sudden this gets interesting. Like they're seeing things about themselves develop on a piece of paper. Like, this is happening. Oh, this is me. Oh, this is interesting. So they're developing the concept of who they are. So, to do a career exploration is a really good idea. And then another thing to do, and we'll wrap it up with this, to get teens interested in career exploration is to do some short apprenticeships, if you can arrange that. And that's where a teen has some vague curiosity about a career. Then if you can find a short apprenticeship for that, they can log career exploration hours. And, a career exploration apprenticeship looks really nice on a transcript. Career exploration, if you do the workbook, the course, that's an elective on the transcript also. So these are transcript enrichment. But if you can do where somebody goes and shadows or volunteers to help out somebody that has a career in an area that maybe might be interesting, what that does is kind of give them a feel for what a workday looks like, for what that particular career feels like, and what kind of things happen there, and builds a either distaste for that career or a real interest in following up and learning more. And then that helps them want to learn some skills to build that. So in our area, our kids have done a variety of different apprenticeships. So, one of my kids was interested in filmmaking. And so he was able to do an internship at a local video production studio that did advertising. So he went and volunteered for them, and so he didn't get paid, but he stayed there for, I think they agreed on a 1 month apprenticeship, and he answered phones and correspondence, went out on some film shoots, and so he got a taste of the advertising end of video production. And that, what it did for him is tell him that the pace and the feel of marketing wasn't what he was looking for. And so that clarified that. We've had young people who really interested in floral arrangements. And so, did an apprenticeship at a local florist shop that actually turned into like a part-time job after the end of the apprenticeship. Volunteering at local vets. Teens have learned what they love and what they don't. And, some have said, this is not my career after doing some volunteer work, working with a vet, large animal vets and the local small vets. Had teens who weren't allowed to apprentice at like a local car mechanic because of their insurance regulations, but were able to do some part-time work assisting, and they had to get paid for that. Like, oh, poor kids. And so that gave them a really like the insider look at what a job in that area would look like, and so that was very enriching for them. So there's a gazillion different things, and it just mostly takes the ask. And sometimes, if you know somebody at church or one of the relatives, that's a good way to get it started. So a lot of teens who just don't have a clue, sometimes it's nice to do an apprenticeship just so they get the feel of doing a commitment. Like, I have to come here every Monday and Wednesday at noon and stay for 2 hours. And so they start getting the rhythm of having to show up and do what they're instructed to do for a couple of hours, and gives them a taste of that kind of, career discipline that they need. And sometimes that sparks some confidence, which then increases interest. And so that is apprenticeships, they are good things. Okay. So there's all kinds of ways that you can get a teen interested. And a lot of it, unfortunately or fortunately, is initiated by the parents, because teens, a lot of times, because they can't visualize ahead, like they haven't had any experience in working, they haven't had experience in having a career, haven't had any experience in how to get started, it takes the parents kind of motioning this along, creating enriched environments, helping curriculum come about, arranging volunteer and apprenticeship opportunities, arranging interviews, like all of those things kind of land initially with the parents. Eventually, by the time the teens are, junior or senior in high school, they have got enough interest going on and enough belief in themselves that they're starting to do a little bit of their own initiating. And that's really cool. And some of them just kind of take charge once they get started. And that is really fun to watch that take off. And it's all, the hard work on the parents. But if you think about it, you've got this teen in high school for 4 years. And that's all that is. 4 years doesn't last all that long when you think in the scope of a lifetime. You can do anything for 4 years. So believe me, been there, done that. Okay. All right. Well, so there's some ideas to get you started. And listen, if you need more ideas, one of the most fun ways to get some things going on as far as the ideas is join the Seven Sisters Homeschool Facebook group. So I just have a group of seven sisters because you're a seventh sister, and everybody that's our friend, we're all seventh sisters together. And they just throw up questions in the group. What have you guys done for career exploration for your kids? And people share ideas, and it is wonderful. And then don't forget, on the website, there is a 40 gazillion different posts on career exploration with all kinds of ideas. So then check the show notes, and we'll put links to movies and things like that you could follow up and see what would be interesting for your family. All right. If you can, go over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening and leave us a bunch of stars, and a review. And that helps other folks find us. And that would be fun. And that's it for today. So, send us a question there on the Facebook group, and we will see you next week. All right. Bye-bye. This has been the Homeschool High School Podcast, brought to you by Seven Sisters Homeschool.com and the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network.